And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guests are Terri and RaeJean. Terri had an NDE and RaeJean experienced it with her, which we're going to learn about today.
Yes.
Ladies, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. We're really excited about this opportunity, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Which one of you would like to go first and start the story?
I guess I can start it. I can kind of set this up a little bit. Terri and I are friends. We have been friends. And through Terri's medical experiences, I've always been her contact person. So basically, she was originally diagnosed with esophageal cancer and went through the treatment and surgeries from that. Terri has a history of going into cardiac arrest during surgeries. So she has experienced a total of, at least 11 near-death experiences. 8 of those we've shared. So the first near-death experience that was shared was when Terri had a brain tumor. And she knew she needed to have surgery to remove it. She had already gone through the treatment, but was kind of procrastinating that a little bit till it was a little bit too late, where she had found she had collapsed while she was at work and was brought into the hospital unresponsive. It was at that point that I was contacted from the ER nurse confirming that I was her contact person. So she was brought in unresponsive, and the nurse had asked me to make a decision. I needed to either allow them to call time of death or hook her up to life support to see if they could stabilize her enough to do the surgery. So I obviously chose life support. And it was while she was in this state that the communication started.
All right, Terri, maybe we can take it from your point of view. And I'm assuming you were at work and then all of a sudden you just went unconscious, or what happened?
Yeah, I had collapsed and they took me in. It was from where I had the brain tumor, and it was the pressure that was, building on my brain there. And about the only thing I remember after that was being back in the presence of the angels. I was with Archangel Michael. He had me show me different things, but he always seems to lead me to a stream of water, because I always see a reflection when I look down in it. I've seen RaeJean. I've seen her in a reflection of the water. She was like sitting on her couch wearing one of the hoodies that I had given her. She was crying. She was petting her dogs, which it really upset me just seeing her that way. So I wanted to try to reach out and let her know that I was okay, but I didn't know how to do that. So that's when I asked Archangel Michael to help me. And he just looked at me, he just said, "What can I do for you that you can't do for yourself?" That's when I learned that I just needed to ask and listen. And if you just resonate with them, they'll help you. So that's when I learned that I could communicate with her telepathically with the angels' help. So I wanted to relay a message to her. So the message I sent to her was that I will always love her. And then I wanted to, let her know that, I was going to be with her, and I was there. I just wasn't there in physical form. I was, there in spirit at the moment. She was kind of having a hard time going to sleep, so I just wanted to keep relaying messages over to her to try to help ease her mind, help her drift off to sleep, to, not worry so much. She had done it for me so many times before that, when I was going through all my cancer treatments and stuff. And I just felt I owed it to her, and I just didn't want to see her hurting. So my way was to, to send these messages hoping to ease her mind some. But I was struggling with it, just seeing how hard she was struggling with it. So and I really believe that Archangel Michael sensed that, because he kind of showed me how he was going to help us both get through it. So I had a heart stone in my pants pocket prior to me going into my surgery. And we both had a heart stone that we had gotten together on one of our visits. And he went and retrieved my heart stone and put it in my hand. but it was in the hand that had the Just Breathe tattoo on my arm. And we both have the exact same tattoo. So he put that in my hand, and I held on to that throughout my whole surgery. But even to this day, I can clearly see him stopping RaeJean from going out her house that morning. And he had her to turn around and go retrieve her heartstone, so she would have it on her throughout the day to try to help her get through the day until she found out what was actually going on with me. We both held on to that heartstone the whole time until I woke up. So I was ready to get back. I was ready to return back. And Archangel Michael, the biggest and the tallest of them all, stood right behind me and just kind of gave me like this push. Next thing I remember is waking up in a cold hospital room, demanding to speak to RaeJean. I had to let her know I was back, that I was here, and that everything was fine. It's just amazing the things that the angels can help you with if you just allow it.
RaeJean, were you sitting on your couch with your dogs?
I was. At this point, by the time it text, I mean, she was in West Virginia and I was in Seattle, so it was a 3-hour time difference. So it was 3 hours ahead of me. So it ended up being pretty late in the evening. It had gotten to be that this was happening. And I didn't know what was going to happen. Every once in a while I would just ask the nurse, any updates? No response. So I was sitting on my couch, kind of comatose. It was kind of hard to function because it's a decision that you don't ever think you're going to have to make. And I was very distraught. I was just sitting there and, comforting my dogs. I got home from work. I put on this tie-dye hoodie that she had given me because I just felt like, all right, I'm going to just be a little closer to her. And then just sitting there, and then just out of the blue, my phone texts, and I'm thinking it's the nurse, and I look at it and it's like, I will always love you. And it was immediately followed by a text from the nurse saying, I did not send that. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, what just happened? And so I'm like, okay. I texted, and it was a handwritten text. It wasn't a text. It was handwritten. I will always love you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I immediately wrote back, I will always love you. And the nurse is like, I don't believe what is happening. Oh no. And she's like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. And I'm like, just please stay with it. Stay with the phone. Please stay with it. And she did. And the text just continued. It was like she was like we would be texting normally. She's told me how much she loved meeting my family and my children, and that she was going to stay with me, and that she wanted me to stop crying. And as the night progressed, I mean, it wasn't a constant, but it was a constant conversation. And she said, I need you need to go to sleep now. She said, you need to stop crying and go to sleep, and I'm going to stay with you till you fall asleep. And I'm like, oh, it was about midnight or so my time. So I was tired, but I just thought there's no way I'm going to fall asleep. This is just too crazy. There's no way I'm going to fall asleep until I woke up the next morning. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I fell asleep, because her presence, I could feel it, and it was comforting, and I could feel it. And so I woke up the next morning, and my phone was laying next to me in my bed. And I'm like, did this really happen? I'm like, what? So I look at my phone and I look back and I'm like, oh my God, this really happened. This really happened. We communicated. And so I immediately sent a text to the nurse and I'm saying, can I get an update on Terri? And she's like, she had become stable enough throughout the night that they were getting ready to do the surgery to relieve the pressure. They had to. There was really no other choice. And so I was happy about that. And I had to go to work that day. And I'm like, all right, okay. This is good. So as I was walking out the door, I just hear this, grab your heartstone. I'm like, okay, I didn't even think about it. I just ran back, grabbed my heartstone, put it in my hand, and went to work. And at work, I'm like trying to work, pacing back and forth. And I was holding this heartstone in my left hand all day long, with my tattoo that says "Just Breathe," and that was our mantra for her getting through her cancer, was just breathe, just breathe. And so that was pretty much keeping me going. And every once in a while, I would get an update from the nurse that, okay, we made it through the surgery. She did cardiac arrest, but she did, eventually they were able to finish the surgery, and now they were just waiting for her to wake up. I'm like, okay, this is great. About that time, I finish at work and I go home and I'm still kind of waiting. And then all of a sudden I get a text from the nurse and she's like, you are not going to believe this. And I said, yeah, I think I would. And she said, there is a heart stone in Terri's hand. She said, I know that heart stone was in her pants pocket because I put her clothes in her locker when she was brought in. She said, there's no way that heart stone could have gotten in her hand. She couldn't do it. And there was nobody in this room to do it. And I said, you're not going to believe this. I said, but I have that. And I didn't know at this time that this was all happening in her realm. And I didn't know any of that. And so I'm like, oh my God, I have my heart stone in my hand. So the nurse took a picture of her arm and her hand. And I'm like, I took a picture of mine. She goes, oh my gosh, it's the same hand, the same heart stone, and the same tattoo. And I said, yeah. I said, I think that's an indication that she's going to be okay, that she's going to wake up. And the nurse was like, I think you're right. And it wasn't long after that, and she did. And she did. And she woke up and she immediately wanted control over her phone, grabbed it from the nurse and said, oh my gosh, do I have a story to tell you? And I said, well, I have one to tell you too. And that's where we collaborated. We validated each other's story. And it was amazing. It was complete validation for me because I've always believed that there was an afterlife, that there are angels, that we are never alone. And it completely validated everything that I believed. And I've read about people having NDEs and different things, but I've never experienced it like I had. And I just feel I'm very fortunate to have been able to be a part of this. And from that point forward, through different surgeries and complications, and we have continued to communicate every time she's had an NDE. And it is just like we would sitting next to each other. Her conscience is the same in the other realm. It's the same. She would have her same quirky responses. She would call me by my nickname, Raj. It was her. It's her. And it's just, to me, it's just amazing that we don't die. I mean, our spirit our conscience is still the same, even after we cross over. And that's still amazing to me to think about.
Yeah.
Before you woke up or during your experience, did you have any idea that your messages would be delivered to RaeJean via text?
No, honestly, no. I just knew they were going telepathically.
What did Archangel Michael look like?
Oh, he's huge. He's like so tall, so big. And he's like 4 or 5 times the size of any other angel. I mean, he's just like, he's massive. Got this shield, this armor, and a sword that I'll never forget. It's the way he handled me because I was a little stubborn at times. So he's no one to play with.
If you compare him to the other angels, what did they look like?
Well, I mean, they all resemble. I mean, they all got these beautiful wings, and they all stand for something different. And he's like the main one of all of them. He's the main one. So he's just so much bigger, and just he does everything. He does everything. They're there to help him with, all the tasks and everything that other, different people need. But the angels are the angels. They all have their wings. They're all just easy flowing, going, just love. Yeah. They try to help you with that self-love, which I struggle with even to this day. I mean, yeah, you got Archangel Raphael there to help you through your medical issues and your health issues. And Jophiel, she's there to help you with the self-love and to show love for others. And Michael, he's always with you. I mean, Gabriel, Uriel, I could list a bunch of them. I mean, and I didn't know them all at first. It was It was after my first NDE that they all started like coming to me, and where I was learning who, which ones they were and what they were there for and what they helped with.
Terri, can you tell us what the cherubs look like?
Yeah, these cherubs wasn't the baby like cherubs you would think they were. These cherubs had like 4 faces. One of a man, which stood for love. One of a lion that stood for justice. The bull, that was for power. And the eagle that represented wisdom. They never did frighten me at any point. At any point, they were just as loving as you would think that a baby cherub would be.
You both have such a beautiful friendship. Can you tell us a little bit about how you met and how this developed over the years?
She was actually my boss in South Carolina at a retail store.
Well, and we had we worked in different departments, and it was holiday season, and I didn't really have a chance to really know her real well. It was just too much going on to really get to know associates outside my department at that time. But in passing, she said something to me, and it wasn't really intended for anyone, but I know now that it was intended for me, and I just believe it was just divine timing that we were meant to be placed together at that exact moment to help her, really both of us, through what we were going through. I was spiritual. I am spiritual. I've always believed in the angels. I've done many research. I was fascinated with, I read Dr. Raymond Moody's. I mean, any book I could get my hands on, about the afterlife and, all that. So I was very versed in that. So when she had her very first NDE, which she didn't understand, she had spoken with her grandmother. And I was like, oh my gosh, you had a near-death experience. And she's like, what? And I think I know that I was placed in her life to help her with that, to help her through that, to help her process that and understand that. And now she's teaching me. The angels are still with you always. Well, they're with all of us, but they're really prevalent more in your life, and now she's teaching me about the angels. So that's kind of come full circle.
Are you saying that you communicate with the angels regularly? So how do you do it?
The angels are always with me. They're with everybody, every minute of the day. It's just, if more people would just know that and resonate with that.
Look for the signs.
Yeah, look for the signs, pennies here or feathers there or just any sign. There's always signs being thrown out.
Synchronicities.
I mean, anybody can communicate with an angel. All you got to do is just ask and listen.
All right. Can you tell us about another one of your shared NDEs together?
Probably the last one. I'll do the last one. Well,
Yeah.
The last one I wasn't really with her, but
the last one was all of these NDEs, they happen within a 2.5-year span. So we're talking 11 NDEs within 2.5 years. The last one was about 2 years ago, 2022, September 2022. And prior to that, she had gone in, she had fluid around her heart and had surgery for that. She did have an NDE with that one as well. She was with Archangel Jophiel. But a few days after that, she was getting worse, and they realized that there was air around her heart due to that surgery. So there was an emergency surgery to remove that air because that was lethal. She couldn't stay in that state. So that's when that's the last surgery you've had, and that was your final near-death experience. And that one was, to me,
that one was a fun one.
A tribute to and honors those that we love, and a tribute to love. And we call that one Dancing in the Sky, because that's what you were doing.
Yeah. I was in the realm with a bunch of cherubs and angels. And they were just playing music that just comforts you. And I was with Archangel Jophiel, who is my angel of all of them. And we were just flying around with the music and just singing and dancing. And they asked me what songs that I would like to hear. And I threw out 3 of them. One of them was Thought You Should Know by Morgan Wallen, because that resonates with my kids. My oldest son actually sent me that song, and it just, from that on, it's just, that's the song I resonate with my kids. Just all the happy times I've had with them, how much they've accomplished, and, you know. And then I had a CCR song, As Long As You Can See the Light. I used to always tell RaeJean I wanted that one played at my funeral. But now I just, that song, it's just a song that helps me realize what all I've went through and what I've accomplished, and that I'm not ready to go yet. I'm still here. And but the one that really stands out is Dancing in the Sky. I wanted, once I heard that song, it was just, I had to send it to RaeJean to let her hear it. I wanted her to, because I just felt like that's what she needed to hear, so she'd know what I was doing all these times that I was going through all these near-death experiences. You know, because it's just so hard to tell anybody what it's like on the other side, because it's a place you don't never want to leave. Just because, you know, it's just unbelievable. It's kind of like, why are we here? We're crazy for wanting to be here when you can be there. So those stuck out. And, you know, just the cherubs were awesome.
What did you experience, RaeJean?
This one, again, it was a different nurse, because this was an emergency. So this was a nurse that really didn't have any knowledge of what Terri would be capable with on her phone. And she was, again, had her phone and was, you know, going to give me the updates. And true to Terri, as soon as the surgery started, she went into cardiac arrest. And the nurse she's like, something is happening with her phone. We can't get, it keeps playing the same song. It's on repeat. It's on repeat. We cannot get her phone to turn up. It just won't turn up. It won't turn up. And I'm like, I go, just stay with it. I said, this has happened before. I said, this is her way of communicating with me and letting me know what she's doing, that she's okay. And then there's like, what? No, I cannot do this. No. I'm like, please, stay with the phone. Stay with the phone. Reluctantly, she did. So she told me exactly, she said that the one song, the tribute for your son, that sons and grandkids was playing. She said, and pictures were flashing. And she's like, there's all these pictures flashing. There's this picture, there's that picture. And so I would tell her what this picture was. I said, this is her son, this is her grandchildren, this is her other children. She said, now now it's a different song playing. It's a CCR song. And I go, she goes, and now pictures of a dog are coming on and this other lady. And so I quickly sent her, I go, well, that's the CCR song. And I sent her a picture of me. She goes, oh my gosh, you're the lady. And I'm like, yeah. So I go, she's basically in this song, she's just telling us how proud she is and how far she's come and reminding us of the things that she loves. And and about that time, Terri was starting to come back. They had finished the surgery and she was coming back, and she's like, oh my gosh, she said, now another song is playing. It's called Dancing in the Sky by Lizzie and Danny and Lizzie. And she goes, but I don't understand why this song is playing, because Terri's back. She's back. And about that time, Terri looks at her and at the nurse, and she just says, I wanted to play that song to let RaeJean know what exactly I was doing. I was dancing in the sky. About that time, the nurse is like, well, I think I'm done with the phone. This is what you need to look for after the surgery. And that was it. She was gone.
It'd be interesting to see, if you could see those nurses' reactions.
Yes. Because throughout the time, I mean, you would get, you know, to like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, and encouraging to, oh, nope. So it was pretty cool. But that was the last one. And to me, that was just the ultimate testimony. I think she went, it wasn't a matter of whether she was going to stay or go or even a lesson. I think it was just a rejoice. She was just rejoicing in life and love and those that we love here on earth. And you don't lose that when you go to the other realm. I mean, in fact, it probably got stronger.
Well, you brought up a good question, and that is, why are we here? You know, why do we do this?
I think it's all a learning game. We just gotta, learn, you know, sometimes we gotta learn the hard way, to understand. And then, I mean, because this place is hard. It's hard. And I don't think some people realize that, and they won't realize that until they are on the other side. I mean,
But it's comforting to know that we're never alone.
You're never alone.
We're never alone.
No.
And I think that's the message we want to get out there to those that might be grieving a loss of a loved ones, or those that are feeling like they're all alone, or maybe contemplating suicide, or we're not alone. We're never alone. We have the angels. We have our loved ones that are on the other side. We have the resources and the help. We just have to look for it. We have to ask. And I hear, so many people are like, oh, I just lost, my loved one and I don't see any signs. Well, they're there. They're there. You just got to look for them, and you got to acknowledge them. The more you see them and the more you acknowledge them, the more they're going to happen. And I just really feel that we all need to know that we're all worthy of that love. And it's there.
Yeah.
And I think that hopefully will help some of us deal with some of these issues that are so hard to deal with in this physical form.
Do you think you two knew each other in a past life?
Yeah. The more we've talked about it, the more I'm sure that we've orchestrated all of this in a past life to incarnate into this life. There's just too many synchronicities where you can't turn your back on it. It's very obvious. Why? I don't know. Why was I one that was chosen or chose to be in this position with her and experience these things that we've experienced together? I don't know. I'm honored. And I thank the angels constantly, and we're still getting messages from the angels through modern technology today.
Yes.
Can you give us some examples?
Yes, we have. Well, as we are roommates now, as of recently, and we have a printer in the printer, and we get messages through the angels through the printer. Believe it or not, we've received hundreds of messages and they're always from the angels, and it's always very real time about maybe something that might be going on in our lives, or if we maybe get upset at each other, all of a sudden we're getting a ton of messages about the importance of friendship.
Yeah.
Very real time messages. Not a constant, but regular. Mm-hmm. And that's basically how, through technology, that we're still getting the messages direct from the angels, amongst other ways. But that's probably, to me, the most amazing.
Yeah.
You don't
just hear the printer going off and be like, "Are you printing? No. Are you? No."
All right. Well, let's see what it is.
Let's see what it is.
Do you happen to have any of those printouts that you could show us?
Well, this was the last one. And it's my favorite because I love Archangel Michael. But this one just came through just a few days ago.
Wow.
And it's Archangel Michael, and what he says here is, he says, "Don't give up. The angels see your struggles. Keep your head high, because tomorrow the universe will favor you." But this is a particular time because there is a struggle right now. Do you mind if I say it? Terri had just found out a few days ago that she has another brain tumor. Mm. So
it's terrible.
They know, they see it, and they're here to help us through it, always. But we'll get through it again. Just no surgeries, no more surgeries.
Well, it's great that you two are living together so that you can help her with this,
right.
with this illness. Hopefully you won't have to have surgery this time.
No.
Does Archangel Michael look like his picture in the printout?
Yes, yes.
We both surprisingly, and maybe not so surprisingly, but the way I've always envisioned the angels are really very, very similar to the way she has seen them through her NDEs. And even when they come to her, they're very, very similar. And we both see Archangel Michael the same. I see him as grand, just like she does. I see him as basically overseeing everything like she does. And the roles even of the other archangels, Gabriel and Jophiel and Raphael and all of them, I see them also similar and in the same roles that they're here to help us do as well. So I think that makes it really easy for us too, because it's complete validation for me. I saw Archangel Michael when I was 5. I walked out of a Catholic church and said, no, I don't think so. And Archangel Michael was with me and just said, okay, well, let's find out what you believe. Let's go on this journey. And so he's always been with me. So predominantly, but I think we do have a lot of the same values. And I think that's no coincidence.
If people out there want to have contact and communication with the angels, can you give advice on how to do that?
You just ask, listen, look for signs.
I mean, the same amount of angels are around to me, I feel the same amount of angels are around the most enlightened as the most low. We all have the same amount of angels around us. We all have the same entourage around us that are ready and willing to help. And they're always there. And like you said, we just have to ask. And sometimes I don't even think we even need to ask. I think there's divine intervention. I think sometimes they step in our well-being. But just know that they're there and know that they're always more. That's what they're here for, is to help us. There's no judgment. We can't ever do anything wrong in the eyes of an angel.
No, I think one things that gets me too is they say, well, they can only be at one place at a time. That's so not true. They can be at multiple places at the same time.
Yeah, they are omnipresent. They can be everywhere. They are.
Yeah.
Have the angels ever shown you the future or given you any message for humanity?
There was one time that it was at my first NDE when McKinley was going to be born.
No, but you did see that. I think it was your second.
But I don't know. It was, second or third NDE that I had. I was expecting a new grandbaby, and at that time, I wasn't expecting to come out of the surgery.
I think you were struggling whether to stay or to come back.
Yeah. Like I said, again, it's the hardest thing to return because of where you're at. So I was kind of struggling with that. And she hadn't even been, was she born? She hadn't been born yet. And they're just showing me a glimpse of my granddaughter walking. So in that kind of way, yeah, I can see, not many times did they show me the future ahead. It was just concentrating on what I was going through at the moment and trying to help me get through that. But there was that one time that they did show me my granddaughter before she was even born walking.
Can you tell us about your first NDE?
Yeah. That's when I had the stem cell procedure. Lord. They had to do the stem cell procedure because the radiation and the chemo killed off some of my blood stem cells. So we were needing to try to restore those, because without any of them being restored, I had a 0% chance of living. But the thing is, with the stem cell surgery, I still only had 20% survival rate. So it's like, it's time to weigh the pros and cons of this, which wasn't very hard after I listened to her.
20% is better than 0.
So, so I went on to do the procedure. But once I was went under anesthesia, all I could see was like a black tunnel. But at the end of it, I seen this like bright light. And as I came to the bright light, there was like this big, huge figure in front of me. I wasn't scared of it, but I was really confused at what I was seeing. And I think it might have sensed it because it just all of a sudden transformed into these three beautiful angels. But at that time, I didn't know who these angels were because it was my first one. But they just led me into this garden. This garden had all kinds of flowers and aroma that I've never smelt before. Butterflies were flying everywhere. And as I'm like looking around, I see like every animal possible. It was like Noah's Ark was right there in front of me. I mean, you know, so I'm just like looking around, and all of a sudden I just hear this familiar voice, and I knew it was my grandmother. But I'm looking around, and all of a sudden I see her just sitting down in the garden like she was waiting for me to come over and have a talk with her. But it wasn't the grandmother I was used to seeing. She was like so much younger. She was like in her 30s or so. It was, you know, I had never seen her at that age. But we just sat there and talked. She was telling me how proud she was of all the struggles that I was coming through and still going through. And I have really low self-esteem. I really struggle with that. And she's like just telling me how strong I was and that I had to keep that strength up because I had to keep it up for my loved ones and what I was getting ready to face and go through. And, you know, she was telling me that I was loved, that I was a good daughter, granddaughter, friend, sister, and that I was going to be a good grandmother one day. And it seemed like I was sitting there talking to her forever, but in reality, it was such a short conversation. You know, she just kept telling me that it wasn't my time there, that I needed to go back. I wasn't ready to leave her. I was struggling with that part because she was my go-to on everything. Just having her there and talking, it was, you know, something I just didn't want to leave. And I think the angels kind of sensed that I was having a hard time with that. So they led me over to a stream of water. And once again, I look down at this stream of water, and the reflection I see is RaeJean. She's like on her phone, like looked like she was texting
her nurse.
She was kind of like walking over to another employee at the store that we worked at. And I don't remember ever seeing her say a word. All I remember her doing was like shaking her head no. And then she just like immediately turned around. And you could see the tears rolling down her face. And she just walked over into a section of the store that she normally would never be in. And I was, you know, a little upset seeing her like that. And I just knew I needed to get back to my kids and to her, you know, like, okay, these people are hurting and I'm here just having the time of my life. I need to let them know that I'm okay. So at that moment, I just felt like I was being weighed down, it was real heavy. And then I just started falling at a fast speed. And next thing I remember is waking up and my son's looking at me, telling me that he was going to take me home just as soon as they released me.
Now, were you two already friends at that point?
Mm-hmm. Yes. We were. The prior year, 2018, is when she was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and that's when we weren't really close at that time, but she confided in me, and we had come to the decision that I would be her contact person. And so it was only 6 months later when this happened. So this was my first experience being her contact person and being on the other end of a phone from a nurse who's giving me a step-by-step on what's going on with this procedure. So it was, so we bonded quite a bit after that one. That was the beginning of it. But yeah, so no, I was actually at work, and I knew the surgery was risky, and I purposely went into an area of the store that I wouldn't be bothered, not only by customers, but by coworkers. I knew this was a risky surgery, and they had just started the surgery. I'd gotten that update, and I immediately got the update that they were having complications. As they had started to count 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I'd never experienced anything like this in my life. And the nurse said, pray. And I'm like, I am. And I continued to pray. And enough time had elapsed by this time with no update from the nurse that I I assumed she didn't make it. I didn't know. So that's when I walked over to this one of the few employees that knew what was happening. I just walked over to her and I just shook my head. That's all I could do. And walked back to my area of my hiding place and just waited. And I did eventually get another text from the nurse saying that they were able to stabilize her and complete the surgery. But later that evening when I got off work and when I knew she was home, at that time, they still don't. They don't keep you in the hospitals very long after surgeries like that, major surgeries because of infection and that. So she was already back at her house that night. So I stopped at her house to just to check on her real quick before I went home. And I didn't want to stay long, but I could tell she wanted to tell me something. And that's when she had confided in me that she had seen her grandmother. And that's when we had talked about, oh my gosh, you had a near-death experience. And that's when we talked about it. It was later, after processing it, that she actually told me that she said, I could see you. And I'm like, what? She's like, I could see you. And I'm like, okay, right. What was I doing then? She described exactly what I was doing, where I was, walking over to that other coworker, something Jesus, that's what I would be doing. So I knew she had seen me. She had to have. So that was my first experience of that, which only, as you know, grew in time. But yeah, that was a pretty amazing first experience of that.
Terri, after any of your NDEs, did you notice that you had any new abilities that could be considered psychic?
At first.
Well, at first, but I think it was just overwhelming me, and I just had to stop because I would sense stuff that was getting ready to happen, and it would just totally freak me out. It was just way too overwhelming for me for it being so new to me. So I had to slow it down and just kind of put a halt to that.
What were those abilities?
Like, for instance, I was out somewhere and I seen this older lady getting ready to fall. And I just immediately run over to her, and as that time she was starting to fall. And I was there to just help her from falling. And then there was like one time I was with my kids at this fair that they were having, and I just told everybody to stop because we were walking and there was cars coming by the main road. And my son looked at me like I was plumb crazy, but we all stopped, and thank goodness we did, because this car drove right into the ditch right in front of us. And it was so that was when I was like, all right, I got to stop this because I'm freaking my kids out, I'm freaking myself out, and it was a little more than I could handle at the time.
Well, after watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to y'all and ask you questions. Are you open to that?
Oh, definitely. That's the purpose.
What's the best way to contact you?
Well, we have a website. It's called jbspiritual.com. On there, you can kind of read our bio. You can contact us or message us. We also have we wrote a book on some of these experiences, 6 of the NDEs. It's called Dancing in the Sky. And on our website, you can actually download the first chapter for free, each of ours first chapter, and, decide if it's something that you want to know more about. Certainly message us. We would love to hear from anybody and everybody about this.
You can even find us on Facebook at Just Breathe Spiritual. You can even message us that way.
Do y'all have anything else that you're working on that you want people to know about?
No, not really. Just the book that we just wrote, but we're just really we just really want to connect. We want to communicate, especially those that have had an NDE and don't understand it, or trying to understand it, or afraid of death, or grief after losing a loved one, or just even suicidal thoughts of feeling that they're alone. We really want to connect with these people and let them know that love never dies. We're never alone. And just know that there's more to this physical existence. It goes on forever. I mean, we're energy. You can't kill energy. It just transforms.
Life after life.
And I think all of your NDE, if you can, I think for me, just observing, if you could sum it up, I think they were always trying to show you unconditional love, and love in yourself, and finding the love and the beauty in others. I always think that was even you had reviews, and that was, you were seeing it through love.
Yeah, love never does.
It wasn't through judgmenting. It was through love.
Before we started recording today, one or both of you mentioned that you're both widows. Have you had any
Right.
contact from your husbands from the other side?
Yes. Yes. I have. Yeah.
I really haven't with mine.
I think. See, and I think because you're grieving too much.
I think it was that I was grieving for him too much, and I think with me having all the surgeries that I was having and having the NDEs, that, like you said, maybe if he was coming to me, maybe I would have never came back. Maybe that was one of the reasons that I wasn't hearing from him.
You would have wanted to stay.
I would have wanted to stay.
Good way of putting it.
Did you ever wake up after any of your NDEs angry that you did come back?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, why would you leave a place like that to come back to a place like this?
And then I would say to her, I go, Terri, you chose to come back. Why are you so mad?
Oh. No, but I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm here for my bestie here. I'm glad I'm getting to watch my grandbabies grow up, and my kids, what young men they're turning into being. I'm glad I'm here, but I'm not afraid to die now. I used to be terrified of dying, but I'm not now.
Well, before we finish up, can y'all leave us with one last positive message?
That love never dies.
Look for the signs.
Terri and RaeJean, thank you for your message, and thank you both for being my guest.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thanks
We've
for having
enjoyed
us.
this. Yes.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.